everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace checking in on you, leaving the gym, headed to my next destination, and just wanted to take a very brief moment to address a topic that's near and dear to my heart. If you followed me for any stretch of time, you know I'm pretty comprehensive in how I deal with and approach the black enigma, for lack of a better term. But there are things that I focus on that are really truly near and dear to me, and I'm extremely passionate about. One is black manhood, and associated with that is the intentional agenda to emasculate and feminize the black male image. I have, over the last few days, noticed the same question in a number of different forms, but basically the same question floating up and down my timeline. What happened to men wanting to be men, or what happened to real manhood, or something along that lines. And some of the things that were written as a response actually answers the question indirectly. Now, I've been writing about this for 20 years. It's in my books, it's in articles, it's in academic papers, it's in so many different places. I've spoke on it numerous times. And I pointed to the agenda, and I pointed to the fact that no matter how affluent and successful women in this particular patriarchal society become, there's only so far the collective can go. Now, an individual woman can make moves just like any other individual on the planet that wants to navigate a system if they're willing to play the game. But I'm talking about as a collective movement coming together and advancing and bettering the black collective. It requires certain things. Number one, it requires spiritual elevation, which we get primarily from our women. It doesn't mean that men aren't spiritual and that men can't spiritually elevate. We're naturally more physically and direct orientated, where women are naturally more intuitive. And that fluctuates, and that can vary at any given time. But in general, I have been quoted as saying that we will only get as high as our women can lift us, and we will only get as far as our men can lead us. And with that being said, the physical force, the dominant presence, the willingness of our men to use that physical force and dominant presence to protect, to guide, to lead, to cover, is a massive threat. The black man, in his own unapologetic form, has never made the white man comfortable. The white man will deal with the black man as long as the black man in some way is emasculated in his appearance, in his position, in his approach, or feminized in the same. And the thing is, there's so much that that's been pushed upon us over the last 40 years that we swallowed, that we let slide, that we sit up and actually in many instances embraced. It became politically correct to do so. It became socially necessary to do so. So we received and accepted things that in the long term would not serve us well. I said this 15 years ago. If we don't continuously provide modeling for black manhood in a traditional sense, black men who will stand up and push back, black men who will fight, black men who will protect, black men who will not take BS from anybody. If we don't have that type of man on deck modeling that type of behavior, we're going to end up with a bunch of men who look good, make good money, and are worthless. Why? Because they're not going to be a part of the cause. Why? Because the system has dressed them, the system has clothed them, the system is paying them. Not only that, Women will enjoy your company as a metrosexual, feminine black man. And I'm not talking about solely about homosexuality. I'm talking about a feminine presentation. Because I know masculine gay men. I'm talking about the presentation of masculinity that says, if you do X, Y, Z, I will touch you. I will go to this length to ensure X, Y, Z. Now, what happens is when you don't have it modeled, while simultaneously a narrative and agenda being pushed in the media for the complete opposite, you end up with a bunch of confused males and a bunch of women applauding it and in many ways encouraging it. But here's the thing, you can't find women who follow femininity in the sense of men. They'll go out with you, they'll hang out with you, they'll laugh at you, laugh with you. But when it's time to sit up and say, and you don't normally find emasculated men and feminine men willing to step out and lead. That's not where they're at. Now they'll jump on all this other stuff because there's insulation in fighting for anything associated with the LGBTQ community. It's insulated. It's better protected than it is standing out and fighting for things within the black community. So you'll find people doing that. My thing is, we should have been dealing with this long ago. When they were talking about toxic masculinity, it has nothing to do with anything about toxic masculinity. What it is the absence of masculinity and the perpetuation of behavior because of young men who don't understand who they are. They haven't been properly socialized. They're going through an identity crisis. They're struggling to find their place in the world. They don't have men modeling it for them at a level that's necessary within the community. Normally, when we become successful, we extract ourselves. When we become successful, we move where successful people live. When we become successful, we start to carry ourselves different, and we start to see those we left behind differently. And what happens is that's this great canyon being created of those who are necessary, between those who are necessary and those who need them. And that is a problem. We need to revisit the restoration of the black family nucleus. The black family nucleus is the institution through which black values, interests, and principles are inculcated into the minds and psyches of young children. You don't wait till a person gets 17, 18, 19, 20, 25, 30, start talking about black group economics. That's something that should be inculcated into their minds as a part of a natural responsibility in childhood. You don't start talking about love and devotion and commitment and building wealth within your own family when you're 25, 30, and 35 years old after you've developed a consumeristic mindset. You start early in life. You build those values, interests, and principles inside the home. But you need a balance of masculine energy and feminine energy because each role is different. And when they are carried out in a natural state, meaning the person who is naturally inclined to it does it, it flows differently. It lands purer. It's just simply the way it was meant to be done. You cannot escape it. You cannot dance around it. You can have the greatest intentions in the world, Mom, but you cannot teach that boy how to be a man. You can tell him what a man should do. You can tell him what a woman wants. You can tell him what you want to see in him. But the vast majority of what your child learns, he learns from modeling. Now, I've seen a bunch of these young fellas grow up and be great in school, end up with great careers, and even become providers in the home, but they still aren't leaders in the home. And I don't mean that in a dominant way. I don't dominate my house. Matter of fact, I'm the person that lays back the most. But when things need to get done, it lands on me. And I do what I have to. And because I handle that, I have the respect of my wife and my children. Even if they don't like what's happening, they know that I'm doing it for their best benefit, and it's going to ultimately end up in a good outcome. And in the few times that it doesn't, I'll fix it. That's all that can be asked of any man. But what happens is you got a bunch of men, because no man was present, that grew up and basically took their lead from a woman who did the best they can. This isn't an attack on single moms. This is an attack on the environment. Moms did the best they could. Some were unbelievable providers and great nurturers, but there was still not the balance in the home. There was still not the balance in the home. So, but what happens is when there's no male presence and you have a male in the house, and there's no adult male presence, and you have a male in the house, the male is taking the lead from the dominant force in the house, which is a female. And the older they get and that relationship continues without male interjection, that young male develops a natural inclination to take the lead from the woman. He's going to look for a woman that can tell him what to do. He's going to look for a woman to answer the big questions and do all the things that most men are looked upon to do. He'll bring the money home. He'll be a great dad in the sense of being engaged with the kids even. But the assertive nature that's necessary is missing in many instances. I know there's always exceptions to the rule. I'm talking about the predominance of the natural force of things as it relates. So what am I saying? I'm saying that we have got to be aware of where we failed, and we have a responsibility to take on this challenge of doing better. We've got to socialize our young black men. That's what the Black Men Lead Rite of Passage Initiative is all about. Providing an environment where young black boys are around black men who walk, talk, and behave like black men. And one of the things that we've really failed at is this whole live and let live, and the ability to redefine roles so that it fits comfortably around whatever we want to do. So there's really no wrong way and right way to do things. Every person is different, but there are some things that in the proper environment naturally comes to a male, and in the proper environment naturally comes to a female. That when they function in those, they function at the height of their capacity and their potential to perform them. There are some natural things that men are built for. There's a reason, and I teach that there's a reason that at a certain age, as black boys and girls go into puberty, there becomes a distinction in physicality, in size, and in strength, and in aggressive nature. Up until puberty, most boys and girls are pretty much the same. You know, we race, anybody could win. You know, you might get beat up by a girl at 7 or 8 years old. But when you start to move into puberty, there's a natural change. The male body starts to produce more testosterone than the female and less estrogen. Not only does that facilitate muscle hypertrophy and strength, it also comes with an added level of aggression. And what we have to understand is when no man is around that models manhood, most boys grow up not knowing what to do with that. So a lot of them turn that same aggression on the ones it was actually meant to protect. That's what we are forced with. Well, that's what I teach myself. When I tell young boys, when you get a certain age, you're going to start to see that you're getting stronger than the girls your age. You're going to start to see that you have a little edge about you. You know, you're willing to fight if necessary. That you're not supposed to fight her. You're supposed to fight for her, on her behalf, defend her. That's what the aggression for. The aggression is so that the male is physically capable and mentally willing to go out and defend. We come up with all of these interlooping ideas and excuses and this, and everybody is solely thinking of, there's this nihilistic antinomian idea that whatever it is, I want to do, I can do. That doesn't work in a social society. That works in a state of individualism. The problem is you don't function on an island. You can't function at your best on an island. Why? Because you're in a world that's innately and inherently hostile towards you. You have to be aware that you're going to be at your strongest and most protected when you're functioning as a social enclave, as a social collective. We've got to learn how to live like that. We've got to learn how to stand like that. We've got to learn how to build and operate in that. We've got so much work to do. I just had to stop by and drop that off. I know that I dropped in earlier, but I had to drop this off. Look, you guys have a great day. I'm going to get out of here. Talk to you soon.